This is my ranking of the top positions I want the Pittsburgh Steelers to address first in this year's NFL draft. So, the Steelers, they have a lot of holes that need to be filled on this roster, whether that's a starter role or a depth role. But this is the positions I believe the Steelers should be looking at first round, second round, third round, and which ones should be addressed first off. So, before I get more into this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. And also like the video. Let's get right back into it. The first position that I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers need to address is the cornerback position. And I believe they should go that position in round 1 if the top guys are there. Because I'll stay by the stance, but I believe that teams in the NFL are getting so much better. Players at the wide receiver position, tight end position, or whatever are getting so much better that you need at least 2 cornerbacks in this league that are locked down corners, or at least cornerbacks that are going to stay with the wide receiver, and you're not going to feel that as though you have to double team or you have to shade over to one side because your cornerback is not good enough. And we've seen that with the Steelers last season. They didn't really have a cornerback that was a lockdown cornerback, especially to start the year. They had Levi Wallace starting, they had Patrick Peterson starting, and we've seen how terrible that went. But once they got one cornerback in Joey Porter Jr., who they felt comfortable putting on the top receiver, their defense started playing so much better. But there was always still the role of Patrick Peterson going to be on the other side. Levi Wallace is going to be on the other side. And you still did not feel comfortable with those guys on the top or the second wide receiver on the roster. So having 2 cornerbacks who you're going to feel comfortable playing. I know we have Dante Jackson, in which we traded for, but I don't believe he's a top cornerback just from looking at his film and watching it. It seems as though he always gets beat. Even though he's a really fast guy, he doesn't really play up to his speed. He still gets beat pretty often in man-to-man coverage. So having 2 cornerbacks who you actually feel comfortable and aren't going to get beat every single play, it allows you to do whatever you want else on the defense. It doesn't make you have to shade over and double team and put an extra safety on the field to shade over on a wide receiver. It allows you to use that safety in a different role, or allows you to use Macus Fitzpatrick to roam the field, or allows you to have more blitzers. So I believe having 2 solid cornerbacks is the way to go. And if you could even have the third one for a depth piece in Dante Jackson, sure, that's even better. But I believe quarterback is the way to go if you could get a top guy. Now, the second position I believe the Steelers need to be filled is center. I could have went center number 1, but I truly don't believe that center is a higher priority than a top cornerback in this league. I believe that center can be more easily replaced, but the Steelers still do need a center, so I'll put that at number 2 because Mason Cole was released this offseason, and also they just don't have a real center on the roster who's strictly a center. They have other guys in which Omar Khan has talked about in terms of Nate Herbig filling in that position and flexibility there, but they don't have a true center. And we've seen how that hurt them in years prior with Maurkice Pouncey at the very end of his career. He was not the same, and the center position just has not been the same since then. You've seen Kendrick Green when he was here, how big of a kind of hurting the team he was, and then you've seen Mason Cole last season as well. He does not be the player that the Steelers needed him to be in terms of snapping the ball always at the feet of the quarterback and just being off balance. He played every game, but he still was not a high or mid-caliber center in this league. So getting a center who's a day 1 starter could be a position that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to address. And that's why I would put that at number 2. But the reason why I'm putting it at number 2 as well, because I don't believe that there's a top center in this year's draft that should be taken at the 20th pick. Yes, maybe if we trade back, sure. By the 20th pick, that's a little bit of a reach in terms of where the value is at the center position in the NFL compared to like a cornerback. That's why cornerback's number 1 and the center is number 2. But number 3, the position that needs to be filled, I believe, is right tackle. And that is because I believe Broderick Jones should be put back at the left tackle position, meaning that they need a need at the right tackle position. And Dan Moore Jr. just is not that. There should be no reason why there should be another season of Dan Moore Jr. starting on this team. I believe that he is also a player that was kind of a mid-level player. He held his own for the most part for the last 3 seasons, 2 seasons, whatever. But he's a player that always got so much hate on how he plays, but I believe he is a solid player, but I still believe he needs to be replaced in the starting lineup. And I believe getting a right tackle high in this year's draft is a high priority because of it. And having so many high value edge rushers in this league, and players are so much better at the edge position than the inside defense line. As of right now in this league, I believe that having a right tackle and left tackle is a high priority, so then it protects the quarterback's blind spot and just their edge rusher, and having them ability to escape of the pocket when needed, not having to worry about having your eyes in the back of your head looking to your left, looking to your right. You can focus on getting the ball down the field if you have a good solid offense line, and having a right tackle like a Marius Mims, for example, would really help that. So right tackle, I believe, is the Pittsburgh Steelers' third position that needs to be filled in order. You have to remember this is all round one. So just say the top cornerback, top center, top right tackle is available. I believe it should go in that order: cornerback, center, right tackle in round one. But obviously in different rounds, it makes sense for different players. Now, moving over to the fourth position I believe needs to be filled on this roster is wide receiver. I am a big believer that Kwon Austin's going to take a next step if he gets more targets, if he gets more playing time in this offense. But they still need a wide receiver on this team because they have George Pickens as the only proven guy. George Pickens, Kwon Austin, Van Jefferson, and Quez Watkins, in which they picked up in free agency. So they really need to add a wide receiver to this group, and a wide receiver that could fill into the number 2 or number 3 role. Yes, there's a big talk in terms of trade market and top wide receivers becoming available, like Brendan Ayuk, T. Higgins, many more, but trade has not happened yet, so we'll have to stick by the stance before the trade does happen, or if a trade does happen, but more than likely it won't. So they will need to fill this position, whether that's through free agency or the draft, and wide receiver is a big need. You cannot go into the season with only one true number 1 wide receiver on this roster who teams could just shade over and double team. If you only have one wide receiver, it's easy to take that wide receiver out the game and have the other cornerbacks play on a wide receiver who's not as well, not as good. So having at least 2 good cornerbacks, 3 good wide receivers, is a big need for the team. And we all know the Steelers usually find gems at the wide receiver position later in the draft. That's why this isn't as big of a need in terms of other player rankings in the draft for me, because they always find the late round gems or the round 2 gems at the wide receiver position that end up being high caliber players. But wide receiver is still a need, but it's ranked number 4 for me. And to be honest, that's really the only order that needs to be addressed. Other than that, they're good at basically every other position. So it's really cornerback, center, right tackle, and wide receiver. But I guess if I'm listing number 5, number 6, and stuff like that, you could be looking at defense line, because you can never have too many good defensive linemen in this league, especially in this year's NFL. Also, a strong safety, in which you compare next to Mink Fitzpatrick. Yes, you picked up Elliott, and you still did Monte KZ, but having another safety next to Mink Fitzpatrick could be huge as well. So if I were to list in those order, the next 2 positions would probably be defense lineman and then safety. But the top 4 is really what needs to be addressed, and I believe that's the top 4 that needs to be held and taken into account first off. So with that being said, that's end this video. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on the order in which you would want the Pittsburgh Steelers to select. Just say every top option is available in round 1. The top guys are available. Which position in order would you want them to address first? Also, make sure you turn on notifications for this channel. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so you never miss out on anything Pittsburgh Steelers news. I covered all of free agency with every new person we picked up. But now with the draft a week away, very soon around the corner, there's going to be new players we're going to pick up, whether that's first round, second round, third round, or even the undrafted guys. And I'll make videos on player introductions for them as well. So this is the spot for everything Pittsburgh Steelers. And with that being said, I'll see you guys all later. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.